Orlando Russo stood in his softly illuminated home office, gazing at the bank statement displayed on his computer monitor. The figures simply did not align. They had not made sense for several months. Another withdrawal had been taken from Marcus's college fund, this one amounting to $33,000. His fingers tapped rhythmically on the mahogany desk as he accessed earlier statements, each revealing comparable trends of unaccounted spending. The house lay silent, disturbed only by the low whir of his computer. Jenny would return shortly from her night shift at Midwest Medical Center. Orlando glanced at his watch. It was 9:45 p.m. His wife's administrative jobs seldom demanded such late hours, yet recently they had grown more common. He heard the garage door opening downstairs, followed by the sharp click of Jenny's heels on the hardwood flooring and the heavy thump of her purse landing on the kitchen counter. Orlando inhaled deeply, squared his shoulders, and walked downstairs. Jenny stood by the kitchen island, her dark hair somewhat messy. Scrolling through her phone, she glanced up with a rehearsed smile that failed to touch her eyes. "Hey, sweetie, there's some leftover lasagna if you're hungry. I need to speak with you about Marcus's college fund," Orlando stated, maintaining an even tone. He set the printed statements on the counter between them. Jenny's smile wavered briefly before returning, more forced than earlier. "Oh, those withdrawals. They're for his AP program costs and the summer internship application process. You understand how pricey these things have become." Orlando examined his wife's face, noting the slight quiver at the edge of her mouth and her anxious finger tapping on the counter. After 2 decades of marriage, he recognized her tells. "Interestingly, I phoned the school. The AP fees were only $400, and the internship applications haven't even started yet." Color faded from Jenny's cheeks, but she rebounded swiftly. "I must have confused the expenses. Work has been chaotic with the new hospital wing opening. Dr. Nelson has us putting in extra hours to get everything sorted." Dr. Nelson. Orlando repeated the name, finding it bitter on his tongue. "You've been bringing him up quite a lot recently." "He's my supervisor, Orlando. Naturally, I talk about him." Jenny brushed past him, making for the staircase. "I'm exhausted. Can we continue this tomorrow?" "Certainly," Orlando answered, observing her retreat. "We'll talk tomorrow." Yet tomorrow never appeared to arrive. Over the following week, Jenny offered various excuses: early meetings, late shifts, yoga sessions. The yoga classes drew Orlando's notice. She had begun them 3 months prior, around the same time the puzzling withdrawal started. One afternoon, while Jenny was at work, Orlando found himself in their bedroom, staring at her yoga mat rolled up in the corner. Something felt odd about it. The mat was costly, a birthday present from her co-workers, featuring a hollow core for easier storage. He lifted it, sensing its weight, too heavy for just a mat. His fingers discovered a Velcro seal at one end. As he opened it, a phone slid out, an older model smartphone he had never seen. Orlando's hands shook as he powered it on. There was no password security. Messages loaded instantly, hundreds exchanged between Jenny and a contact saved only as "C. Miss you already. Last night was amazing. Can't wait for Wednesday. Same spot. Jenny, I'll reserve our regular room. C. I'll watch him again. C. Mom is always glad to help with Marcus. She believes I deserve some personal time." The timestamps extended back months, even years. Orlando scrolled until his eyes ached, uncovering messages from when Marcus was just a small child. "M's asthma is flaring up again. Ideal excuse for Friday. Jenny, I'll ensure your insurance handles the treatments. The usual time. C." Orlando sank onto the bed, his reality shifting violently. Dr. Calvin Nelson. Wednesday and Friday evenings. Lucille watching Marcus. The fragments connected with nauseating clarity. He remained seated there when Marcus returned from his college courses. His son's footsteps hurried up the stairs, pausing at the doorway. "Dad, are you all right?" Orlando glanced up at his son, 18 years old, brilliant, pre-med, just as his mother had always encouraged. How much of their life had been meticulously arranged? "Just thinking," Orlando managed. "How about we have dinner together tonight? Just the two of us?" Marcus shifted uneasily. "Okay, but Mom has book club tonight. I told Grandma Lucille I'd assist her with setting up a new TV while Mom is out." "Book club," Orlando repeated. "Your mother has attended that for years, hasn't she?" "Yeah, every Wednesday and Friday. She's really into it," Marcus said with a grin. though I've never actually seen her read a book. The front door opened downstairs, and Ginny's voice called up, "Marcus, Orlando, I'm home early." Orlando slipped the phone into his pocket. Perfect timing. "We need to talk downstairs." Ginny was arranging fresh flowers in a vase. Lilies, her favorite. She had changed outfits since the morning, now wearing a new blouse Orlando did not recognize. "Ginny," he said, raising the bank statements, "let's revisit these withdrawals. And while we're at it, let's discuss your book club." Ginny's hands froze on the flowers. "I told you, those are for Marcus's. Stop lying." Orlando's voice sliced through the room like a knife. He produced the burner phone. "How long have you been involved with Calvin Nelson?" The vase slipped from Ginny's grasp, shattering on the floor. Water and flowers spread across the tiles as Marcus rushed down the stairs. "Mom, Dad, what's happening?" Ginny's face twisted. "Orlando, how dare you invade my privacy? This is entirely inappropriate." "Inappropriate?" Orlando laughed, though there was no amusement in it. "Like using our son's college fund to cover hotel rooms? Like having your mother babysit while you—" "Dad, stop," Marcus interjected, stepping between them. "You can't speak to Mom that way." "Show him the phone, Ginny," Orlando said calmly. "Show him the messages dating back to when he was 4 years old. Tell him about all those Wednesday and Friday nights at Grandma's while you were with your boss." Ginny's composure shattered. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she reached for Marcus. "Baby, it's not what you believe. It was just one recent mistake. Your father is attempting to vilify me." "Don't." Orlando's voice was steady. He turned to Marcus. "While you were receiving asthma treatments at the hospital, your mother was meeting Dr. Nelson in hotel rooms. Your grandmother aided her every time." Marcus shook his head fiercely. "You're lying. Mom has always been there for me. You're the one who was never around. Always at science fairs, always with your students, because she pushed you into those duties." Orlando realized aloud. To keep me occupied while she— The doorbell chimed, slicing through the strain. Ginny dabbed her eyes, quickly regaining her composure as she opened the door to reveal Lucille, her mother, standing there with a worried look. "Ginny, darling, you called?" Lucille's eyes scanned the scene. The shattered vase, Orlando's stiff posture, Marcus's bewildered expression. "What's going on here?" "Orlando is making terrible accusations." Ginny wept. "About me and Calvin." "Calvin." Lucille's expression hardened as she faced Orlando. "Honestly, in this era, you're going to criticize your wife for having a close male friend? Modern marriages require freedom and understanding." "Like your marriages, Lucille?" Orlando's voice oozed scorn. "How many affairs did you have? Is that why you assisted Ginny in concealing hers?" Lucille raised her chin. "I had 3 wonderful marriages, each with its own arrangements. Ginny learned from me that women deserve happiness and exploration." "Get out," Orlando commanded, silencing the room. "Both of you, pack your bags and leave." "You can't evict us," Ginny argued. "This is my house too. The house I financed while you drained our savings on hotel rooms," Orlando retorted, pulling out his phone. "Shall we call Calvin's wife? I'm certain she would enjoy hearing about your arrangements." Ginny's face turned pale. "You wouldn't dare." "Try me." Marcus stepped forward, his face a mask of fury. "If Mom leaves, I'm going too." "Marcus, please," Orlando began, but his son was already ascending the stairs to pack. The subsequent weeks blurred with lawyer appointments and mediation sessions. Ginny hired Alina Castro, a ruthless divorce attorney notorious for financially crippling husbands. Orlando endured depositions where colleagues testified about false rumors Ginny had spread regarding an open marriage to disguise her actions. The ultimate setback occurred when Theodore Duke, his department chair and someone he regarded as a friend, confessed to aiding Ginny in hiding her relationship with Calvin. "I believed I was honoring your lifestyle choice," Theodore said uncomfortably in his office. "Ginny claimed you had an understanding." Orlando cleared his desk that afternoon, tendering his resignation. He had one final errand before departing town, a visit to a private investigator's downtown office. "I need all available information on Ginny and Calvin Nelson's relationship," he informed the investigator, "and I require DNA testing using these." He set a folder of Marcus's past medical records on the desk. "Are you certain you want to know?" the investigator inquired. Orlando nodded, his jaw firm. "The truth tends to surface eventually. I simply need to be patient." He left town the following day, driving west toward Colorado, and a new job opportunity. In his rearview mirror, the city diminished along with 2 decades of deception. With every mile, Orlando felt lighter, aware that sometimes the finest revenge is patiently awaiting karma's course. The late-day sun gilded the highway as he drove, reminding him of all the science fairs he had coordinated and all the students he had aided in reaching their aspirations. He would do it again, assist more students in constructing something new. And when the truth finally caught up with Ginny and Calvin, he would be prepared. His phone vibrated with a text from Faith Bruce, the school nurse and his sole remaining ally in town. Marcus moved in with Ginny. They're spreading awful rumors about you. Stay resilient. Time uncovers all truths. Orlando offered a grim smile and switched off his phone. He had research to conduct, tests to await, and a fresh life to build. Ginny could cling to her lies for the present. The truth would locate her soon enough. The Rocky Mountains stood majestic against the Colorado sky as Orlando parked at Summit STEM Academy. 2 years had elapsed since he abandoned the ruins of his marriage, and the crisp mountain air still felt like liberation each morning. Principal Sarah Chun stood in the doorway, her face brightening as he neared the lab. The equipment has arrived, Dr. Russo. Your new advanced chemistry program can commence next week. Orlando smiled, appreciating her use of his academic title, something his former school seldom did. Perfect timing. I have 3 promising students who could utilize the gas chromatograph for their scholarship applications. Inside his classroom, Orlando surveyed the shining lab stations. Each symbolized a further step from his history, another student he could help forge a brighter future. His phone buzzed with a text from Faith Bruce, his last link to his previous life. Thought you should know, Marcus began pre-med this semester. Ginny is broadcasting it everywhere. She and Calvin married last month in a small ceremony. Orlando's jaw clenched, but he continued reading. Calvin is practically boasting at the hospital, Faith added. Acting as though Marcus were always his son, it disgusts me. Thank you for keeping me updated, Orlando typed in reply. How are you managing there? Barely enduring it. Ginny has been unbearable since the wedding, parading around as if she's hospital royalty. Now that she's Mrs. Dr. Nelson, some of us recall the truth. Orlando set his phone aside and focused on his lesson plans. He had 28 students from underprivileged backgrounds relying on him for college references. Their futures mattered more than Ginny's social ascent. Later that afternoon, as he calibrated the new apparatus, his office phone rang. It was James Martinez from the testing lab. Dr. Russo, regarding those DNA samples you submitted, we have the outcomes. Orlando's hands paused on the dial. Proceed. Paternity exclusion is confirmed. The probability of paternity is 0%. Should we run additional markers? Unnecessary. This verifies what I already suspected, Orlando replied, his voice unwavering. Please forward the full report to my attorney. After hanging up, Orlando opened his desk drawer and retrieved a thick folder labeled Marcus Medical Records. Inside, he inserted the DNA results alongside 14 years of meticulously recorded hospital visits, credit card statements, and hotel receipts. The truth could wait for now. Months evolved into years. Orlando's chemistry program earned national recognition for its success with disadvantaged students. Each scholarship acceptance felt like a personal triumph, evidence that positive outcomes could arise from even the deepest betrayals. Faith's updates became a routine part of his life, each reinforcing his choice to wait calmly for the truth to unfold. Naturally, Marcus is leading his class in medical school, she texted one spring morning. Ginny never misses an opportunity to note he's following in Calvin's footsteps. The irony would be humorous if it weren't so brutal. Orlando was formulating his reply when another message appeared. Oh, and he's engaged to a genetic counselor named April Carding. They met at the hospital. The phone nearly fell from Orlando's grasp. A genetic counselor. He caught his reflection in the classroom window and saw himself smile. The same smile he wore when configuring intricate chemistry experiments, knowing precisely how each reaction would unfold. Nature has a method of revealing truth, he texted back, even when we believe we've buried it. The next several months delivered further updates. Marcus and April were arranging genetic screening before starting a family, standard practice for medical professionals, Faith reported. Orlando noted the date on his calendar and waited. One Tuesday morning, as Orlando oversaw a complex titration experiment. His phone illuminated with an unfamiliar number. The area code was from back home. Dad. Orlando's grip tightened on the phone. 9 years of silence. And now this single word bore the weight of everything unspoken. Marcus. He kept his tone neutral. This is unexpected. I've been tracking your work, the chemistry program you developed, the scholarships. It's remarkable. Thank you. Orlando observed his students meticulously measuring solutions, their futures broadening with each precise calculation. What can I do for you? April and I are expecting a baby, a boy, Marcus said. We'd like to name him after you. Silence stretched between them, dense with unexpressed truths. That's quite a shift from our last discussion, Orlando finally said. I know I was mistaken about so much, Marcus admitted. Mom made one error, and I couldn't grasp why you wouldn't forgive her. But now that I'm older, beginning my own family, Orlando shut his eyes. One mistake. Jenny's deceptions remained intact even after all this time. Where are you now? Marcus asked. Denver, teaching at Summit STEM Academy. Could we meet? There's a cafe near the hospital where April works. I've been wanting to speak with you, to attempt to understand what occurred. Orlando thought of the folder in his desk, awaiting precisely this moment. Text me the address. I'll be there. The following weekend, Orlando sat in the modern cafe Marcus had selected, watching his son approach through the window. Marcus resembled Calvin more than ever. The same self-assured stride, the same jawline. Nature revealing truth, one genetic marker at a time. Marcus settled into the seat opposite him, appearing older and more refined than Orlando recalled. A white physician's coat was folded over his arm, and a hospital identification badge identified him as Dr. Marcus Russo. Nelson, you look well, Marcus offered. Your students are fortunate to have you. Thank you, Orlando replied, studying his son's face. How is your mother? Happy. She and Calvin recently celebrated their 7th anniversary. She always says leaving was the most difficult decision she ever made, but she couldn't continue living with your refusal to forgive a single error. Stop. Orlando's voice sliced through the cafe chatter. Before you go on repeating your mother's account of events, there's something you should hear. He reached for his briefcase, but Marcus raised a hand. Actually, Dad, I have something to tell you first. He retrieved a medical file. April and I underwent genetic screening before trying for a baby, standard practice in our field, but something unusual turned up. Marker inconsistencies that don't align with what we'd expect from your and Mom's profiles. Orlando leaned back, observing the truth gradually unfold. I repeated the test 3 times, Marcus continued, his professional composure beginning to fracture. The markers don't match what they should. Statistically, it's not possible for you to be my biological father. Orlando finished the thought. No, it's not just unlikely. It's precisely what your mother and Calvin arranged. The color faded from Marcus's face. What are you saying? I believe you already suspect. You're a doctor. Now the proof is in your own DNA. The background noise of the cafe seemed to dissolve as decades of deception started to collapse. Orlando observed his son, not biologically related, but his in every meaningful sense, struggling with the revelation. He had already guessed. All those Wednesday and Friday nights at Grandma's, Marcus whispered. My childhood asthma treatments, conveniently timed with Calvin's wife's hospital board meetings. Orlando's tone was soft yet resolute. Your mother and Calvin's affair began long before you were born. Lucille didn't merely cover for them. She assisted in the planning. Marcus gripped the table's edge, his knuckles whitening. How long have you known? I grew suspicious when I discovered the burner phone. The DNA test only verified what the messages implied. Orlando paused. I wanted you to uncover the truth independently. You're a scientist. You appreciate the importance of reaching your own conclusions. Why didn't you tell me when you found out? Why let me go on believing? Would you have trusted me then, over your mother's tears and Calvin's professional standing? Orlando shook his head. Some truths need time to mature. They sat in silence, the gravity of the disclosure settling between them. Outside, Colorado's autumn adorned the trees in hues of truth, stark, beautiful, and inescapable. The baby, Marcus finally said. April and I, we're expecting a son. We intended to name him Orlando. He gave a bitter laugh. To atone for how I treated you. But you were aware. You knew everything. And you You still regarded me as your son. You still followed my accomplishments, still waited for me to learn the truth in my own time. Orlando nodded. Some connections go beyond biology, Marcus, just as some betrayals cut deeper than a single affair. Marcus stared at his own hands, a doctor's hands, resembling Calvin's. I constructed my entire identity around their falsehoods, my career decisions, my relationships, even my concept of family. Now you have the chance to determine what to build upon. The truth. The cafe had almost emptied around them. As the afternoon advanced, Marcus looked up, his eyes reflecting the resolve Orlando remembered from science fairs and late-night study sessions. I need to examine the evidence, he stated. All of it. Orlando nodded, finally unclasping his briefcase. We should move somewhere private. This isn't a discussion for public venues. They moved to April's office at the genetics clinic. Its sterile environment provided an apt setting for the methodical examination of a family's life. Orlando presented the documents one by one: DNA findings, birth documents, hotel receipts, and messages chronicling decades of deceit. April joined them, her professional insight lending authority to each item. Her hands trembled as she examined the genetic markers, but her voice remained steady as she verified what Orlando had long known. The patterns are definitive, she affirmed, holding Marcus's hand. The paternity probability goes beyond exclusion. It clearly identifies Dr. Nelson as the biological father. Marcus gazed at the preserved burner phone messages. They spoke about me as though I were part of their cover-up. My illness, my college selection, everything. Your mother and Calvin executed a long-term strategy, Orlando remarked. They exploited my commitment to teaching, my trust in your grandmother, even my pride in your medical aspirations, all to their advantage. And now they're honored at the hospital. Marcus spat. Pillars of the medical community, the ideal power couple. Orlando observed his son's mounting anger, reminiscent of his own years before. But where Orlando had redirected his fury into patience and rebuilding, Marcus would need to navigate his own course through the betrayal. What happens now? April inquired, her hand resting protectively on her abdomen. Marcus rose, collecting the evidence with unsteady hands. Now we take this home and determine our next steps. The truth no longer impacts only us. Orlando nodded, mutual understanding passing between them. Whatever you decide, remember that my door is always open. Specific details don't define fatherhood. Love and time do. Time uncovers all truths. As they separated outside the clinic, Marcus embraced Orlando for the first time in 9 years. I'm sorry, he murmured, for trusting them, for allowing them to turn me against you. You were a child trapped in their web, Orlando responded. The real question is, what will you do now that you're free? Marcus stood tall, doctor, son, and expectant father simultaneously. First, I need to speak with April, then confront them with their actions. All of them, Mom, Calvin, Grandma Lucille. No more falsehoods. Orlando watched them drive off, aware that the next chapter of their story was beginning. He had played the extended game, allowing truth to surface in its own time. Now it was Marcus's turn to dictate how justice would be delivered. Back at Summit STEM Academy, Orlando returned to his classroom. The next day, he would guide another group of students through the mysteries of molecular bonds and chemical reactions. But today he permitted himself a moment to reflect on how truth, like the elements on his periodic table, inevitably finds its proper place. His phone vibrated with a message from Faith. Heard Marcus was in town. Is everything all right? Orlando smiled, typing in reply, better than all right. The truth is finally having its moment. He gazed out at the mountains, their timeless peaks bearing witness to time's capacity to reveal what was long concealed. The coming phase belonged to Marcus, but Orlando had accomplished his goal. He had waited, observed, and allowed the truth to emerge in its own perfect timing. The morning after their cafe meeting, Marcus sat in April's genetics laboratory, examining the DNA results Orlando had safeguarded for 9 years. Each document narrated a tale of deliberate deceit, with timestamps and medical files constructing an undeniable chronology of betrayal. The markers are conclusive, April stated, her professional calm wavering as she assessed the proof. Paternity exclusion is absolute. And these marker patterns? They correspond exactly with what we identified in our screening. Marcus traced the dates on the hotel receipts. Every Wednesday and Friday, like clockwork. His finger halted on a specific entry. This one, my 10th birthday. Mom claimed she was working late, but she was really with. April's voice was gentle yet firm. There's additional evidence. She indicated the burner phone messages. Orlando had carefully recorded exchanges that went beyond affair logistics, exposing a meticulously orchestrated scheme spanning decades. Need to ensure M's medical records indicate asthma flare-ups for our Wednesday meetings. Jenny, I'll handle the story with O as usual. Board meetings provide ideal cover. Calvin, make certain you encourage his application for the science fair coordinator role. It occupies him on our nights. They coordinated everything, Marcus whispered. My entire childhood was arranged around their affair. April produced Marcus's birth certificate, placing it next to Calvin's medical records. The marker inconsistencies we detected weren't errors. They're confirmation. Dr. Nelson is your biological father. Marcus stood suddenly, overturning his chair. I have to confront them now. Are you certain? Perhaps we should. I've spent 9 years believing Orlando was the antagonist in this narrative. 9 years viewing Calvin as some sort of savior for rescuing our family. His laugh was acrid. I'm finished waiting. At Midwest Medical Center, Jenny Nelson-Nay Russo sat in her enhanced administrative office, arranging fresh flowers, always maintaining appearances. When Marcus stormed in, her smile faded at his expression. Honey, what's the matter? Calvin emerged from his adjoining office, adjusting his white coat. Is everything all right, son? Don't call me that. Marcus slammed the DNA results onto Jenny's desk. Would either of you care to explain this? Jenny's face paled as she recognized Orlando's detailed documentation. Calvin stepped forward, his professional facade slipping. Where did you obtain these? From my father, my real father, the man who raised me despite knowing I wasn't biologically his. Marcus's voice quivered. The man you both spent years vilifying while conducting your affair. Jenny stood, reaching for Marcus. Sweetheart, you don't comprehend. Orlando was never present for us. Calvin and I salvaged the situation. Marcus withdrew. I read the messages regarding my asthma treatments, about manipulating Orlando into additional work, about exploiting Grandma Lucille to conceal your Wednesday and Friday meetings. That was long ago, Calvin said smoothly. Families are complex. You constructed your entire relationship on lies. Marcus exclaimed. You used my childhood ailments as cover for your affair. You turned me against the man who raised me, all while knowing the truth. Jenny's tears began, the same performance Marcus had witnessed 9 years prior. We only desired what was. What could you possibly say to rationalize this? He produced additional papers. Here you are discussing my paternity before I was born. Here you are scheming to use Mom's marriage to conceal your affair. Here you are rejoicing when Orlando accepted that science fair position that kept him working late. Calvin's professional demeanor shattered. Those records are confidential. Orlando had no authority. He had every right. April entered the office, her own copy of the genetic results in hand. As a genetic counselor, I can validate these findings. The paternity exclusion is absolute. Jenny's tears vanished, replaced by cold calculation. This is a private family issue. You have no business interfering. I'm his fiancée, April replied calmly. And I have a professional duty to report ethical breaches, such as falsifying medical records to conceal an affair. Calvin's expression darkened. Are you threatening me? No, Marcus interjected. We're exposing you, both of you. Every falsehood, every manipulation, every instance you used me to harm Orlando. He turned toward the door, where Lucille stood frozen, having arrived for her weekly lunch with Jenny. And you, Marcus spat, my own grandmother. You aided in ruining your daughter's marriage and used me as a pawn in their affair. Lucille adjusted her expensive blazer. Modern marriages require compromise, dear. Compromise? Lying, cheating, exploiting a child to hide decades of deception. Marcus laughed bitterly. Did you relish it, Grandma? Watching Orlando raise another man's son while assisting them in sneaking around behind his back. Now, see here, Calvin began, but Marcus interrupted. No, you see here, Dr. Nelson. I'm presenting this evidence to the hospital board. Every falsified medical entry, every misuse of your authority, every ethical violation you committed to hide your affair. Jenny's composure finally broke. You wouldn't dare. We're your parents. No, Orlando is my father. The man who knew the truth and still loved me, still waited for me to uncover it myself. Marcus gathered the documents. You're merely the individuals who betrayed him, and now everyone will know exactly who you are. The hospital board meeting was merciless. April presented the genetic evidence, while Marcus detailed years of falsified medical records. Calvin's wife, Patricia, sat stoically as decades of deceit unraveled. 20 years, she stated. 20 years of Wednesday board meetings while you were actually. She stood, removing her wedding ring. Anticipate divorce papers and an ethics inquiry. The repercussions were swift. Calvin's medical license was suspended pending investigation. Jenny's position was terminated. The hospital's legal team initiated damage control as rumors circulated through the medical community. Lucille attempted to contact Marcus daily, leaving emotional voicemails about family loyalty and forgiveness. He blocked her number after the 20th call. The wedding was delayed. Marcus spent months in therapy, reconstructing his identity on a foundation of truth instead of falsehoods. April supported him, her own sense of justice fortified by their ordeal. One spring morning, Marcus and April drove to Denver. Orlando's chemistry program had recently gained national acclaim, and his classroom was filled with students eager to learn from the instructor who taught them that truth, like any chemical reaction, merely requires time and appropriate conditions to manifest. Dad, Marcus called from the doorway. Students glanced up curiously at the formally dressed couple. Orlando smiled. Class dismissed early today. Remember to review Chapter 7 for tomorrow. As the students departed, Marcus approached. April and I have news. We're having a boy. Orlando nodded, recalling their cafe discussion about names. And we're naming him Oliver, April said softly. After your father. Orlando's expression gentled. Dad would have appreciated that. He always said character is revealed in how we manage difficult truths. Marcus swallowed hard. I regret that it took me so long to recognize the truth, to understand what genuine fatherhood means. You needed to discover it yourself, Orlando replied, just as my students need to grasp chemical reactions through their own experiments. He guided them to his desk, where a small chemistry set awaited. Speaking of experiments, would you like me to demonstrate some basic reactions to your future son's parents? Every competent doctor should understand chemistry. As Orlando performed simple experiments, his hands steady and confident, Marcus observed the man who had chosen to be his father despite everything, who had patiently waited for truth to emerge rather than imposing it. Months later, Oliver was born. The birth announcement deliberately omitted the Nelson surname, listing him simply as Oliver Russo Cardings. Jenny attempted to send gifts, which Marcus returned unopened. Calvin's efforts to make contact were met with legal warnings. The account spread through medical networks, dismantling Jenny and Calvin's carefully constructed reputations. Lucille found herself isolated, her social circle disintegrating as her involvement came to light. Her attempts at reconciliation were met with silence. 1 year later, Marcus founded the Truth Project, an organization assisting children of divorce in navigating family deception. Orlando's chemistry program earned another national award, his students' achievement rates making news. In his sunlit Colorado classroom, Orlando taught his grandson elementary chemistry experiments, observing truth and justice form flawless compounds across generations. The betrayal that defined their lives had ultimately evolved into something untainted, a heritage built on honesty, patience, and the unbreakable connection between a father and the son who chose him in return. 5 years later, the Distinguished Journal of Medical Ethics released its yearly highlight of major professional misconduct cases. On page 6, under the category of notable long-term impact cases, the Nelson Russo incident still drew significant notice. The Nelson Russo case continues to serve as a prime illustration of how personal wrongdoing can dismantle decades of medical standing. Former Chief of Medicine Dr. Calvin Nelson's methodical exploitation of his role to alter medical documents, along with Administrative Coordinator Jenny Nelson's involvement, resulted in the most considerable ethics scandal in the history of Midwest medical centers. Faith Bruce settled into her chair at the Journal in her new office at Denver Metropolitan Hospital, where she currently held the position of head of nursing services. Orlando had suggested her for the role 3 years earlier, after the aftermath at Midwest Medical had made remaining there unfeasible. Her computer chimed with an email notification addressed to Faith Bruce at Denver Metro from the Ethics Board of Midwest Medical. Subject: Final update on Nelson case status. Dear Ms. Bruce, as a principal witness in the Nelson Russo Ethics Inquiry, we are notifying you of its resolution. Dr. Calvin Nelson's medical license has been irrevocably revoked across all 50 states. The board's ruling cites an unparalleled misuse of medical authority over 2 decades, along with organized falsification of medical records to hide personal misconduct. The hospital's civil settlement with impacted parties has been completed. Mrs. Jenny Nelson, previously Russo, remains indefinitely prohibited from employment in any medical institution receiving federal funding. Regards, Medical Ethics Board, Midwest Medical Center. Faith offered a somber smile as she forwarded the email to Orlando. His reply arrived promptly. Justice takes time, but it always comes. Speaking of coming, are you still attending Oliver's 5th birthday next weekend? He's asking for his favorite chemistry set. The years had reformed everyone's lives. Faith browsed through recent social media posts, observing the differences. Jenny Nelson's meticulously managed social media profile had collapsed. Her last public entry, from 3 years ago, displayed her frantically defending Calvin. My husband made errors, but his medical achievements ought to matter for something. The medical community's reaction had been rapid and severe, with past coworkers openly describing other occurrences of ethical breaches they had previously ignored. Now nearing 60, Jenny was employed as a receptionist at a small insurance agency 2 states away. Her efforts to preserve social status had collapsed as completely as her marriage to Calvin. Their shared resources had been heavily depleted by legal costs and civil agreements. Calvin Nelson, once the esteemed chief of medicine, had his medical license invalidated in every state. His ex-wife Patricia's ethics probe had exposed a trend of violations reaching beyond the falsified records for Marcus. Additional families came forward explaining how Calvin had tampered with medical files to assist friends in concealing affairs or masking insurance fraud. The last Faith heard, Calvin resided in a simple Florida apartment, supposedly composing a memoir that no publisher would consider. His former associates openly ridiculed his attempts to reinterpret his dishonor as a love story that society was unprepared to embrace. Lucille, now in her late 70s, had turned into a warning story within their social group. Her part in enabling decades of deceit had ruined her relationship with Marcus and her status in the community. Her weekly bridge club, once the origin of her social influence, had publicly requested her departure. She lived by herself, mailing monthly letters to Marcus that his assistant sent back unopened. Faith clicked through to more positive updates. Orlando's most recent post depicted him receiving another education award, Summit STEM Academy's chemistry program recognized as one of the nation's best for the 5th year in a row. Program founder Dr. Orlando Russo praised students who recognized that genuine achievement stems from honest effort and careful observation of outcomes. The comments section brimmed with former students recounting their accomplishments. Orlando had converted personal betrayal into professional victory. His program had now assisted over 100 disadvantaged students in obtaining full college scholarships. Marcus's professional page emphasized his newest accomplishment, happy to announce the Truth Project's growth to 50 new sites across the country. Our support services for children impacted by parental deception have aided over 10,000 families in coping with the consequences of family betrayal. Special gratitude to our main sponsor, Patricia Nelson, whose personal encounter motivated her generous donation. Faith smiled at the newest family picture on Marcus's personal page. Marcus and April with their children, 5-year-old Oliver and 2-year-old Elena. The caption read, "Weekend experiments with Grandpa Orlando." Elena insists on wearing his old safety goggles. The comments illustrated how completely the truth had reformed family connections. Jenny Nelson, "Oliver looks so grown up. I'd love to send him a birthday gift." Comment hidden by user. Calvin Nelson, "Marcus, we should discuss your mother's health." She's not. User blocked. Lucille Waters, "Beautiful grandchildren. I have some family photos as well." Comment hidden by user. April's response to a friend's comment disclosed more. Yes, Oliver is already displaying Orlando's passion for chemistry. Elena too. "It's wonderful to see them connect with their grandpa. Graphic details don't build family love. Truth does. Faith's phone vibrated with a text from Orlando, meeting with the college scholarship committee. 7 more students qualified this year. Dinner later to review your Denver Metropolitan Anti-Harassment Policy rollout. She replied yes, then opened a final email that had just arrived to all medical staff from Board Communications, Midwest Medical. Subject: Case Study, Addition to Ethics Training. The Nelson Russo case study has been incorporated into mandatory ethics training for all medical staff nationwide. This inclusion underscores how personal misconduct can affect patient care and institutional credibility. Key aspects include Dr. Nelson's systematic manipulation of medical records from 1995 to 2019, administrative involvement in concealing ethical breaches, long-term effects on patient confidence, and the significance of early reporting of suspected violations. The case study ends with transcripts from the Ethics Board hearing, featuring Dr. Marcus Russo's statement regarding the generational consequences of medical ethics violations. Faith shut her laptop, recalling the day Marcus had given that testimony. He had stood upright before the board, speaking truth to authority with the same calm strength Orlando had demonstrated all those years ago. The Truth Project's most recent quarterly report lay on her desk, its effect metrics narrating their own tale. Over 10,000 families assisted, 50 locations countrywide, a 95% success rate in therapy completion, an 85% enhancement in parent-child relationships, and $50 million in legal aid obtained for affected families. The last page included a quotation from Marcus. Truth does not ruin families. Lies do. Our goal is to help people reconstruct on foundations of honesty. Faith's office phone rang. The hospital CEO wished to talk about integrating aspects of Marcus's program into their family counseling division. As she lifted the receiver, her computer displayed one final email notification to Faith Bruce at Denver Metro from J. Nelson at CoreInsurance.com. Subject: Please read about Marcus. She erased it without opening. Jenny had forfeited the privilege of maternal worry years prior. That night, Faith joined Orlando, Marcus, April, and the children for dinner. Oliver wore his junior chemistry set apron, proudly displaying the non-toxic experiments Orlando had shown him. Elena wobbled after her brother, safety goggles sliding down her nose. The ethics board issued their final decision, Faith mentioned as they sat. Orlando nodded, assisting Elena with her napkin. I noticed Jenny called the school again. She contacted the foundation, too. Marcus added. She wanted to contribute her viewpoint to our parent reconciliation program. April clasped her husband's hand. The restraining order is still active if you require it. No need, Marcus replied, observing his children interacting with the man who had elected to be their grandfather. Some individuals never grasp that respect and trust must be earned. Right, Dad? Orlando smiled, instructing Oliver on how to correctly measure components for their after-dinner science experiment. Right? Similar to chemical reactions, relationships require the proper elements to function: truth, patience, love, and time. Faith added, raising her glass. Time uncovers all truths. They drank to that. Meanwhile, across town, Jenny Nelson organized insurance documents in a leased office. Calvin Nelson gazed at his declined manuscript in his Florida apartment, and Lucille Waters sat alone in her home, filled with unread letters to a grandson who would never open them. The truth had required time to surface, but its reactions, once initiated, had altered everything they contacted. In Orlando's classroom at Summit STEM Academy, a poster still hung above his desk. Every reaction attains equilibrium in its own time. Beneath it, decades of student success stories demonstrated that patience and truth invariably produce the correct outcomes. And there you have it. Another story concludes. What were your impressions? I would appreciate hearing your views in the comments below. If you like this story, think about joining our community by subscribing. It signifies a great deal to us. For more stories like this one, view the suggested videos on screen, and I will see you there.